Why don't we make it 7? 7 straight wins for the Vancouver Canucks, taking down the Anaheim Ducks in a divisional game that, folks, it might mean something in the future. After, 12 days without Canucks hockey, they come back. They looked a little shaky at times, but they got the job done. 7 wins under Bruce Boudreau. There's so many big numbers in this game. Like I said, 7 in a row, 7 under Bruce Boudreau. And folks, the Vancouver Canucks, who were 8-15-2, not 3.5 weeks ago, are back at 500 for the first time since like October 23rd, I think was the last time they were at 500. The Bruce Boudreau era is one of the most shocking, confusing, exciting things to happen to this team. And what a way for this game to go. We'll break down, we'll pick the big moments. It'll only take a couple minutes. We'll go over this game a little bit. We'll go pluses, minuses, which are my thoughts on the game. And then we'll get your thoughts. And we'll talk about the future. We'll talk about the last game of the 2021 calendar year, which is tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m., another late one against the Kings. But we'll get to all of that later. Woo! All right, let's break it down. Brock Besser, Phil DiGiuseppe out due to COVID protocol. And for Anaheim, they were missing a couple key guys as well. Zegras, Steele, Comtois. So some guys missing from both sides. Alex Chason slots in. First period, quick little breakdown. Canucks forced to kill 2 penalties in the first. Shortly after the second kill, it's Sam Carrick in on a breakaway. This was a bad Tucker Pullman pinch. He goes all in on the pinch at the blue line. There's no forward who's going to get back in time. Totally misses it. Brad Hunt's last man back. He's just slow compared to Sam Carrick, who's a pretty quick skater. He goes in, he beats Demko, makes it 1-0 Anaheim. Shots in the first period were 8-8, so pretty even period, but it's Anaheim who's on top early. Second period, Canucks get their first great chance of the game. Dickinson alone in the slot. He tried to pass it over to Horvat, and it was like, you could have shot there, but if Horvat had been able to get all of it, then it would have gone in, so I don't hate the pass. I think it was Shattenkirk who broke it up pretty well. Then we had Garland with a breakaway, and his shot like popped up into the air on the rebound, almost landed behind Gibson. Gets called for a hand pass after. Garland and Pettersson then have a 2-on-1, and Garland can't get it to go through Gibson. So a more exciting second period than first period. Shots were 15-8. The end of the second period made me mad because the Canucks sort of fell asleep. It was Schenn and Ekman Larsson out there, and both of them just sort of forgot that they were playing a hockey game, but it didn't hurt the team. They survived it. There were a few of those moments throughout this game where the Canucks sort of looked like they forgot what they were doing and that they were out there in a hockey game. But luckily, none of those opportunities hurt the Canucks, and it kind of helps that, Thatcher Demko's a pretty decent goalie. Third period, Ducks get caught on a bad change, and Quinn Hughes capitalizes. He sees that they're getting off the ice, and Quinn Hughes is so fast, he gets in the play. It's a 2-on-1, and the Canucks had a couple 2-on-1s earlier in this game, and they didn't make the pass over. Now, there's a plus and minus to that. If you make the pass across, the goalie has to move. It's way easier to score because the goalie's basically diving to try to save it. But also the defender can block it. So a couple of these 2-on-1s, I think there was a Horvat one with Pettersson that he just shot it. The Garland and Pettersson one earlier, both of them were Pettersson on the other side, where they couldn't get it through. But this one, Quinn Hughes passes it early to Tanner Pearson. Gibson wasn't expecting it that early. He's kind of late to slide it. Pearson settles it down quick enough and fires it past Gibson, dead center of the net. Not the best shot, but it gets past Gibson, and it's 1-1, all tied up. The Canucks had a terrible penalty kill in the third period of this game. Ekman Larsson goes to the box, called for a trip, but he got all puck. It kind of made me mad, but whatever. The Canucks failed so many clearances on this penalty kill. It felt like Anaheim was due to score. There was Tyler Myers and Luke Schenn were out for the entire 2 minutes. Getzlaf had a great chance. Sonny Milano had a wide open net. Technically only one shot on goal because they missed the net so many times, but Canucks survive it. And then the Canucks almost score late. Garland fed Pettersson in front, but Gibson made a huge save. So we go to overtime. And this felt, do you guys remember, it wasn't last year, it was 2 seasons ago. The season that got cut short, the 2019-2020 season. You guys remember a certain game against the St. Louis Blues that went to overtime? And you kind of look down and you look up, and the St. Louis Blues were on a 3-0. That's what this one felt like. Tyler Myers tries to make a move. He loses the puck. He falls down. It's a 3-on-1. Myers was out there during that one against St. Louis too. I remember that because Myers was behind the St. Louis net. So they're in 3-on-1 and they make the one pass across and they're making the pass back to the trailer, which is the right thing to do. And the trailer misses the puck. JT Miller, who's the last man back, just turns around, chips it away. And John Gibson needs to come out and play this, but I guess he thought Miller was going to be faster to it, or he thought the puck would stop earlier. It ends up getting to like the hash marks. Like Gibson could have easily come out and played it, but JT Miller gets there, quick shot over the high blocker of John Gibson, and a messy win, a messy goal, but the Canucks pull it out, a 2-1 final. This wasn't their best game they've played. It was probably one of their worst under Bruce Boudreau. But you kind of expected that, right? The team's rusty coming off this big break, but they came out, they got the 2 points in a pretty big game, right? If the Canucks are going to find a way back into the playoffs, and 7 games ago, I literally said, like, we're not talking about playoffs anymore. Well, when are we going to start? Because, I mean, the Canucks are kind of in the thick of things here, you know? They're back up to 500 hockey. They're 4 points out of a playoff spot with Edmonton losing tonight. They're now 9 points back of Anaheim. And I feel like if there's any team that's going to fall out of it, Anaheim might be a decent bet over someone like Edmonton. Again, I look at Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and I think there's no way that they don't find ways to win games down the stretch. So this was a big game. You would have liked it to happen in regulation, but at least they didn't lose it in regulation. The Canucks get 1 extra point on the night, and they just keep on creeping up. Tomorrow night against the LA Kings, if they win that one in regulation, they'll be up to 6th place in the division. Actually, no, they'll be up to 5th place because I don't know if San Jose plays tomorrow, but that would be that they could leapfrog both of them tomorrow. San Jose plays against Philly, who also won tonight. So who knows? Potential for the Canucks to jump up to 5th in the division tomorrow night, pending a win and a San Jose loss. It's kind of crazy. So let's go over pluses, minuses. You guys know the deal. First, +7 in a row. Of course. That's a big one, right? 7 wins in a row. When's the last time the Canucks won 7 games in a row? It's been a while. They obviously didn't do it last year, and they didn't do it this year. They only had 8 wins before this game, or before Bruce Boudreau showed up. So that's crazy, and it's an unprecedented run, and it's only ever happened twice in NHL history that a new head coach has come onto a team and won their first 7 games. One of them was Jeff Ward in Calgary like 2 years ago. So Bruce Boudreau has a chance tomorrow night to be the first NHL coach to win their first 8 games with a new team, which would be absolutely crazy. If anyone's a Jack Adams contender at this point, he's got to be top of the list. He's undefeated. Also, shout out to Bruce Boudreau's mask, rocking the Christmas mask. That was pretty sick. I mean, you're 4 days late, but he was probably planning on wearing it last week when the games were supposed to be played, and he didn't get the chance. So that's fine. You know, he had to get the use in. He went out and bought it. You know, you got to wear it. Flat out, the Canucks were the better team tonight. Not by a lot, but they were the better team. If you look at Natural Stat Trick, which I always like because they do some good tracking over there. If we look at Corsi, which is shot attempts, Canucks barely had more shot attempts, 51-46, but the Canucks were getting a lot more blocks. Final shots ended up being 37-23. So that 14 discrepancy there comes from shots that hit the net for one. Anaheim was missing the net like crazy, but also block shots were a big part of it. Do I have the exact number in front of me here? Where's the block shot stat? Blocks were 18-10. So that helps Canucks out hit 30-20. They were a good team tonight. Again, they looked a little rusty. They played down to the Ducks level at times. They got a little scrambly in their own zone, but you know, you can't complain too much about being scrambly in your own zone when you only allow 23 shots on goal and you only allow 1 goal. That's a successful night. Quinn Hughes continues to just be unreal. He's now 4th in points by defenseman this season. So he's going to get Norris votes this year. He's not going to win it, right? And he's probably not going to get top 3, but he could get some 5th place votes. He might get a 3rd place vote or 2, right? Which is crazy. That's especially after last year where his rookie season, he looked excellent and really promising. Last year, he played really bad defensively. He still racked up a lot of points, but this year, he is looking so much better. He gets another assist tonight on the Tanner Pearson goal, the primary assist, and he has been so very good. I want to give a big shout out to Bo Horvat. He was giving her all game. He just could not buy one on John Gibson. How many shots did he had? He had 6 shots. He had 6 shots on goal tonight. Niels Höglander had 6 shots on goal, but I think 3 of them came at the same time at one point. Tanner Pearson had 7 shots on goal tonight. Connor Garland had 5. Tanner Pearson, that 7 shots on goal is misleading because there was the one play where he came from behind the net and took 3 whacks at it. That counts as 3 shots. But still, I mean, if you take those 2 extra away, that's still 5 shots on goal. Tanner Pearson actually had a pretty good night. There were a couple iffy things. There was the icing late in the third period that I didn't love, but he had a pretty good game as well. And of course, Thatcher Demko. Under Bruce Boudreau, coming into this game, he had a .959 save percentage in those 5 games that he had played, because Halak played 1, and he gets a .957 save percentage tonight. So they'll basically keep it at .959 for the 6 games that he's played so far. He has been absolutely unreal, and I mean, with a pretty shaky defense in front of him, right? We look at the first handful of games when some guys were out due to COVID protocol. They were without OEL for a bit. They had Kyle Burroughs in the lineup. They had Noah Juleson in the lineup. Things were getting a little bit scary, but Thatcher Demko has remained excellently consistent throughout these last few games. And my last plus for this one, the Edmonton Oilers losing in regulation. Who'd they lose to? They lost to the St. Louis Blues 4-2 in regulation, so another game for them with 0 points. They are 3-7 in their last 10. They had a nice little 5-game losing streak in there. And like I said, the Canucks are 4 points back of Edmonton and that final playoff spot, which is absolutely excellent to see. All right, on to the minuses. The first one's the defensive zone, and I mentioned that already. They looked kind of lazy at times, kind of sloppy. Clearing pucks out seemed to be a real chore at times. The breakout just didn't look great. It's something that can be fixed. It's something that has looked better in previous games. Again, that rust is probably a big part of it, but it needs to be better. The Brad Hunt-Tucker Pullman pairing was not great. They allow the 1 goal. They just are slow compared to everyone else. Pullman had a lot of failed pinches. And, you know, part of that is Bruce Boudreau is trying to encourage these aggressive defensive plays on these pinches, but if you're not succeeding on them, then they're very bad. So those need to get cleaned up. They only ended up playing, Hunt and Pullman played 13-20 and 14-30 respectively, with Pullman getting a little bit more ice time. Brad Hunt was credited with 3 giveaways tonight. Which isn't great. Shout out Luke Shen, though. I didn't mention him in my pluses. Luke Shen continues to be kind of a workhorse here. 22 minutes almost, 5 hits on the night and 2 blocks. Tyler Myers had 7 hits and 4 blocks. The stat sheet is pretty nice tonight. The one negative on the stat sheet that you will see that really stands out like a sore thumb is if you look down the face-off percentage column, and you get down to Elias Pettersson, who played 18 minutes tonight, 3 shots on goal, 1 shot block. And when you see a 7 on the stat sheet, you assume, oh, they probably got a lot of shots, or they blocked a lot of shots, or they had a lot of hits, right? That's where a 7 would come in. That was his face-off percentage tonight. That's bad. That is not good. What is 100 over 7? He's like 1 for 14? Is that how that adds up? 1 over 14 is like 7%? Yeah. I think he was genuinely 1 for 14 in the face-off circle tonight. That needs to get better. Just straight up. There's nothing else for me to say about that. Bo Horvat against 60%. He's always crushing it there. So those are my minuses. But hey, the Canucks have a chance tomorrow night to get above 500 for the first time since, I think, October 23rd. And if that happens, that means the video that I drop on Friday will be a fun one. A little year in review I've got planned. So let's go to your thoughts, your takes. Of course, the game tomorrow, I'll be live after that, as always. Another late one, another 7:30 start, which is just gross. Stop scheduling games so late, California teams. But let's go to your questions and things of the sort. I'm going to scroll all the way to the top because there's so many of you leaving comments in here. First one from Arlo. Happy for a W. Come on, show the comment. There you go. Happy for a W, except I'm not super happy with the game. They kind of looked like the Green Canucks. They did at times. Like I said, this probably was one of their worst games under Bruce Boudreau. However, that's a pretty high bar, right? And I think we expected teams to come out a little sloppy and a little rusty, right? They haven't played in a week and a half, but it was nothing like what we've seen around the NHL. Around the NHL, we've been seeing these high-scoring games, right? The other games tonight were 5-3, 4-3, 4-3, 4-2. There was a 3-2 in there. And then yesterday, all the games were, I think there was 3 games, and there was like 20 goals or something scored across all 3 of them. So, yeah, not the best game. I'll admit that. But hey, if you can have a pretty meh game and pull out a victory, pull out your 2 points, that bodes pretty well, in my opinion. Let's see here. JC saying, this is a completely unexpected win with how Gibson played. This is awesome. Yeah, I hate John Gibson so much. He is continuously cursed this hockey team. The Canucks just can never get anything done against John Gibson. They made it work tonight. They got, because again, one bad mistake in overtime. But John Gibson continues to be so good against the Canucks, even when he hasn't had a great year this year. Last Resort doesn't agree with Arlo's statement, saying didn't really look like the Green Canucks. We were dominating most of the game. The problem was our defensemen struggled a bit, but I attribute that to a lack of rhythm. Yeah, and I think that sort of falls in line with what my thought was too. The defensemen need to shore things up, and that has been the continual weakness from this team, and that's what we expected coming into the year, right? We looked at the roster that was constructed, and we thought, okay, great top 6 to top 9, should score a lot of goals. Scary defense, good goaltending. And this game sort of played out that way, right? The offense was great. They were putting pressure on. They had 37 shots on goal. Sure, they didn't score much, but it's John Gibson. You're not going to score that much sometimes. And the defense was scary, but the goalie made up for it. And that was kind of the story. A game like this, if it wasn't John Gibson and Thatcher Demko in net, could have been 5-3, right? And it would have felt the exact same. Just both goalies played really well in this one. So how you doing? Saying Bruce said 6-0 is good, but 10-0 looks better. Yeah, I saw that cameo. They showed it on Sportsnet. That is awesome. I like for a coach to come out and say something like that. Most won't, right? Like, could you imagine not John Tortorella. John Tortorella I could see saying that, honestly. Could you imagine Willie D coming out and being like, 6-0 is good, but we want to be 10-0. No, you couldn't, right? Like that. It's such a personality thing, and it brings a lot of fun to the team. And I mean, when you're winning games, it's hard not to have fun at this point. The Elder saying big win, but a bit fluky. Kind of fair. Again, I think they were the better team, but that was definitely a game that could have gone either way. Jason Dickinson's worst game of the year. I thought he was okay. He did struggle with clearing some pucks out, but I don't think it's his worst game of the year. Jason Dickinson was pretty bad in the first 20 or so games of the season, 25 games or so. He's been a lot better the last 6. Sure, this one was probably his worst game of December, let's say, but I don't think it's his worst game of the year. Jaskran pointing out that JT Miller now has 34 points in 32 games. Yeah, I forgot he got an assist on the Pearson goal. He gets so many just sneaky points, but yeah, he's up to 34 points, which puts him, I think that's top 10 now, right? I'm going to pull it up really quick. Points, all leaders. Yeah, that would put him in 8th ahead of Austin Matthews at this point if he has 34 points. Matthews has 33, so yeah, he'd slot into 8th after this game. As long as your numbers were right and you weren't lying to me. But no, that does look right because he was at 32 before. That's awesome. Good for him. Let's see. JC saying they were rusty but outplayed Anaheim. They fought hard for the win. No complaints warranted. Yeah, I mean, you can complain. You can bring up the things that you can improve on. But yeah, I mean, you can't complain about the result. That is for sure. Demetrius says, do you think the Canucks win in regulation if Besser played tonight? Maybe. I mean, maybe he gets a couple of those shots instead of someone like Pearson, right? You have Pearson with 7 shots on net. Sure, one of them went in. I don't want to hate too much, but I mean, let's say Connor Garland had 5 shots tonight. Maybe Besser has those 5 shots instead. One might be a little more likely to go in, but the way Gibson was playing, you never know. The 2 goals, I mean, one was a cross ice, and the other one was just a flat out mistake. I don't think one player is going to make that huge difference. If you then added Zegras back in for Anaheim, then it would have been an interesting story for sure. Let's see here. Erwin, this is a good question, saying, I guess Halak takes the start in LA. I don't know. I don't give Halak the start tomorrow. There's 2 ways to look at it. One thing there. Okay, here's the sort of dilemma. Demko's the better goalie. If you want to win the game tomorrow, you put Demko in. Another thing to note, they play tomorrow, which is Thursday. Then they play Saturday, and then they have 4 days off. They play the Saturday, and then they don't play again until next Wednesday. So if you can play Demko tomorrow, Demko Saturday, he gets a nice long break before Wednesday the 5th. And then you're against some bad opponents. You have Ottawa and the Islanders that week. The other argument, so I think it's safe to say that Demko only faced 23 shots tonight. Demko just had a week and a half of rest, and he's the better goalie. The counter argument is, when does Halak play? Because you then have a backup goalie who has just sat for the last 2 weeks, who would then sit another week. And I mean, here, let me pull up the schedule. The Canucks don't play another back-to-back until January 15th and 16th. Everything else is pretty spaced out until then. So there's a good argument both sides, and I'd like to get your guys' take on it. Let me throw a poll in the chat. Halak tomorrow? Question mark? Yes or no? Poll is out and live, because this is something that I talked about. We talked about in Canucks After Dark as well. Because it's a tricky. There's 2 sides to it, right? And part of me leans, well, you want the win, so I say you put Demko in, which rhymes. That's pretty. That's pretty creative on my part. But also, you don't want Halak to get really rusty, which he will, because he won't have played a game for a month plus at that point, right? Last time he played was against the Blue Jackets on the 14th. It's already been 2 weeks. We have so far 59% saying no to Halak tomorrow. So 59% saying start Demko. That's up to 62% now. Pretty interesting. We'll see what happens. Arlo's saying, I can't believe Burrows didn't play tonight. Way better than Hunt. Fully agree. Burrows should be in instead of Hunt at this point. Especially if Hunt's only going to be playing 12 minutes. He's just too slow. Jaskran saying Kraken also lost. I'm not worried about the Kraken. The Kraken are not an issue in the race for a playoff spot. The Kraken have 24 points in 31 games. Now, again, they are 7 games below 500, which is the same as the Canucks were 2.5 weeks ago. I don't see this big resurgence from them like we saw from the Canucks. I would say that would be a really tough bet to make. Let's see here. Sharms saying, is the CSKA Twitter account the greatest one to have been discovered in the past month? Yeah, if you guys haven't noticed, Podkolzin's team, when he was in the second Russian league, has just been tweeting out a bunch of Podkolzin content, which has been excellent. Highly recommend following that. Bruce saying, nice to see Tanner scores. Fans have been giving him a lot of flack, and I've given him a lot of flack. I tweeted, I said, I've never said a negative thing about Tanner Pearson in my life, which is definitely a lie. I have given Tanner Pearson quite a bit of grief in my time, but he had a decent game tonight. And, he got a goal. What's that? It's 5th of the season, which they've played, 30-something games? I mean, he's only on pace for 12 goals this season, which isn't great, but it's also not terrible. Victor asking the big question, do we make the playoffs? I'm all in. Let's go. Let's go for a ride. If we don't at least believe it, we can't have fun, right? So let's ride it out. It's still unlikely statistically, but I mean, if there's ever a team that was going to make it work, this might be it. They just need to win these games and then hopefully not lose too many against the tough teams in the Metro that they have in a couple of weeks. Shabad saying my birthday's tomorrow. They better win. Happy birthday. Let's see here. Steel Dog saying looks like Bo is a step behind on his shooting decisions tonight. Maybe that one with Dickinson, although I don't think he was expecting the pass. But I don't know. He seemed to be letting him go. I thought he played really well. Cover that up. Let's see here. Travis Green saying, have you noticed a difference in the reffing from the NHL Canucks games versus the World Juniors? I didn't watch much of the World Juniors while they were on, so it's not a great comparison for me. But the NHL, the penalties have been pretty rough. That Garland penalty was weak. The penalty on who was it? Whoever got the penalty for Anaheim, the tripping call on Podkolzin. Was it Manson? I think it was Manson who took that penalty for tripping Podkolzin. I thought that was soft too. It's been kind of whack. I think it's a pretty fair statement. RP saying, what do you think of Podkolzin's performance tonight? I always think Podkolzin's playing well. It's just the effort level for me. He has looked really good, consistently good in my mind. He keeps getting better. I really like that fit with Pettersson and Garland. They didn't produce tonight, but I mean, between the three of them, I mean, I guess they had 8 shots. Garland had 5. Pettersson had 3. That's fine. If you have a line putting up 8 shots in a game, you can't complain too much about that. I think they played fine. Aisha saying Miller is staying in the top 10 in points, really making a case for team MVP excluding Thatcher. You do have to qualify that with excluding Thatcher, but yeah, he just seems to produce. I think I'd have Quinn Hughes above him at this point because Quinn Hughes only has like 6 fewer points or 7 fewer points, and he's a D-man, which I think is just crazy impressive. Quinn Hughes, like if you look at the NHL scoring, he's on the first page, which is the top 50 as a D-man, right? He's top 4 as a defenseman. Let's see, sort by defenseman, get stats. Yeah, he's 5th in D-man points, which is unreal. Lots to talk about Halak and Demko because I had brought that up. Let's see here. Travis Green saying, if we're in the mix by the deadline, should we trade Halak for an asset and promote DiPietro while trying to stay competitive? No, not if you're in the mix. If you're in the mix, you keep Halak. If you're out of it, maybe you trade Halak and get DiPietro up. But I think if you're in the mix, you keep him just to ride it for now. Kevin saying, if you want the win, you played Demko 82 games, but you can't do that. That is fair, right? And again, you have to give Halak like 25 games this season, and he's only had like 7 probably. How many games has Halak played? It hasn't been a lot. Halak. Wow, I can't spell. Yaroslav Halak has played 8 games for the Canucks this year, and he's gonna need to play more because you don't want to run Demko to the ground, right? Because I mean, let's say they are in the mix in March and Demko's exhausted. That's gonna be difficult. Sharm saying tomorrow's game is pretty much a must win if we want to join the wild card hunt. We could leapfrog LA. Yeah, it would be big for, leapfrogging potential. Again, I don't think LA is a team you're really competing for a playoff spot because you'd have to get past LA and San Jose and then one of Anaheim, Calgary, Edmonton, whichever one hopefully falls off. I think LA's sort of ceiling might be like 5th in the division. I don't think that they're going to be the main team you're competing for that top 4 spot. So I wouldn't say it's a must win, but a win would be nice and to keep the train rolling. And again, with those games against the Metropolitan Division coming up in a couple weeks' time, where they have that big streak, where they have like the Hurricanes, the Panthers, the Lightning, I think, a bunch of tough teams, they're going to want to build up as much of a buffer as they can for that stretch. Let's see here. Martyr saying, I keep having hope the Canucks might make the playoffs. I'm scared. Yeah, the hope is what kills you. That is true. Miller for Selke asks time for hockey. I don't know. He's only like a +1, and I know plus minus isn't everything, but they do look at that. And Selke voters aren't that. Selke voters kind of have a list of players in front of them, and it's like Bergeron and Barkov and a couple other guys, and they look at no one else, and it will always be those same players. So I kind of doubt it. Kind of doubt it. Alrighty. Edmund saying, is it fair to say Tyler Myers is the most improved D-man under Boudreau? Yeah, maybe. I'd also give a nod to Luke Shen. Luke Shen has looked a lot better under Boudreau as well. But yeah, Myers has looked a lot better. He did look a little bit iffy with that stick handling, as mentioned earlier, but he has been absolutely fine. All right, let's take a look at the upcoming games. The upcoming games brought to you by no one because we don't have a sponsor here, but Canucks Kings tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. Of course, we'll do our live right after that one as well, same as tonight. Hopefully it doesn't go to overtime. It's not too late. Hopefully they get another regulation win. Friday, I will be dropping a year in review video, which will be a good one. Make sure you're subscribed for that. The good little chance to hit the like and subscribe button down there. If that subscribe button's red, you've made a mistake. Make it gray. Then they play the Kraken on New Year's Day at 7 p.m. They get a little bit break and they come home and take on the Islanders. And hopefully by that Islanders game, they should have Brock Besser back as long as he's asymptomatic. I think the protocol is 7 days, so I think that would take to the Tuesday or maybe the Wednesday morning. So as long as Brock Besser is back by then, that would be a big boon for the team. I'll take a couple more questions here, and then we will wrap up for the evening. Let's see here. RP8, do you think Quinn Hughes is starting to look like a Norris candidate? Absolutely. A candidate for sure. He's not going to win it. There's still guys like Adam Fox out there and Cale Makar who have been excellent. But man, he's gonna get votes, because when these get voted on, they vote for 5, right? They stack rank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they get points in the reverse order, right? So your number 1 vote gets 5 points, your number 2 gets 4. I could see Quinn Hughes appearing on a lot of ballots in the 3, 4, and 5 slots this year. So I mean, I'm sure we'll see him get some votes at the very least. Joe Van saying, do you think Boudreau's improving the defense? A little, yeah. I mean, they're allowing less goals. They're allowing less high danger chances. I think the biggest thing is that the forwards are clicking even more, which also helps defensively, right? They're coming back on defense better. They're being more aggressive, which just allows less high danger chances overall, at least for now. Jaskaran, why was OEL not on for OT? I saw Myers on instead. I don't know. He might have been on the second run, or Hughes or on the third run. I don't look into that too much. They're just going to rotate guys. The Elder saying, how sure are you the season gets finished with a rise in COVID? Canada Canadian div mid-season, possibly a bubble again. Are you concerned we see all 82 games played? I think everything gets played out. I honestly, I think it's pretty predictable the way cases are going on how things will be. I think they're going to have to beef up the taxi squads. I think we're going to see quite a few team-wide outbreaks, but I think they're going to do everything they can to get these games played. They might have to do like a 70-gamer again, like they did a couple years ago, and then maybe a playoff bubble, but we'll see. I know they don't want to miss out on that revenue again, though. Max saying, what do you put the Canucks playoff chances at? Well, let's see. They need to make up 5 points or so to get into a playoff spot. They need to get ahead of Winnipeg, Edmonton, San Jose, LA, maybe Anaheim, if not Edmonton. I'm at about a 20% right now. But if they win a few more, it gets a lot more interesting. But I'd say I'm at 20%. But I am full on rooting for it. That is for sure. Fishby saying they changed it to 5 days, and say with Mark King, it is 5 days in the States, but if they are playing at home, the BC regulations are 7 days. So since this is a home game here against the Islanders next Wednesday, it would be the 7-day protocol instead of the 5-day protocol. But if they're staying in the States, then it's 5 days. So it's kind of a weird situation there. Let's see here. Some funny jokes. Haha. Haha. Bruce said 2 to 3 to make the playoffs, says David. Yeah, and they've built up a bit of a buffer, haven't they? Haven't lost in a while. All right. I think we're going to wrap up there. Thank you guys very much for joining me tonight. Did we hit 300? We hit 302 at one point. Thank you guys very much. We've been seeing this on the rise for the last little while, and I appreciate you all joining. Like I said, hit the like button if you haven't, and follow me on Twitter. Let's see if we can get closer to 500 on the year. I tweet sometimes mildly funny things. So ParkersPucks on Twitter. It's linked in the description. If all of you went and followed me on Twitter, we'd hit 500, and that would be cool. And I'd appreciate that. Nice little New Year's gift. If not, that's fine. That's fine. Do whatever you want. Anyways, if you missed any part of this, you can go back to the beginning here on YouTube. You can just scroll back to the beginning, or it'll be up on your favorite podcast platform in about 20 to 30 minutes, however long it takes to process. And yeah, we're going to wrap up there, and I will see you guys tomorrow night against the LA Kings, where hopefully we can make it 8 straight, which is just crazy. That's just dumb. Okay. I will see you guys tomorrow.